Studio Shrinkage. Studio Shrinkage. Hello. Hello, Will. Why is your
Marty.
head bigger than mine?
Because it might be
Good
bigger than
afternoon.
yours. Good
Is it
afternoon.
afternoon?
No, not yet. Still morning
Okay.
in
You look. You
Chicago.
look like you're sleeping.
No, I'm awake.
Don't get too
I've
excited.
been awake. Been awake for a good hour or so. Just kidding.
Man. Holy man. Wow. Holy man. Well, this is our 48th podcast.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, to us, yeah. It's not impressive to anybody else, but to us it is. Um, I have a pop filter. I found it behind something.
You need it with that mic though. Doesn't
I
it have
don't
like
know.
built-in. Well, if you do that, even the pop filter doesn't help.
How does pop? Does it make any
Sounds good.
difference? Pop. Is there a difference?
Yeah, a little bit.
In what way is it a difference? Less
Just
poppy or just less volume?
less. No, just less high end, less sibilance, less
Still works.
takes off a little
Go figure.
little
Well,
S's and
hello,
P's.
Will, and welcome to the 48th podcast. And we were off for a week because we take every other week off now because we're lazy or we have stuff to do. So I don't know what you want to talk about today, but I have two things I wouldn't mind saying.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure saying, but talk about. My first thing, and you probably have a lot to say about this. We talked a little bit this week about this. There's a, I don't know that it's really a thing, but here, people that don't have big rooms are mixing on headphones. And I went through this whole big thing with you about articulate headphones, mixing style headphones that are open back typically, not necessarily, but typically, that have as flat a response as possible. And I found some interesting things about that. I have DT770s, these, which are not, I mean, they're for inexpensive. When I mean inexpensive, like what are they, $300 or something?
No, 200, 160
$200.
bucks. Right?
Oh, that's not bad. are very, they're closed back though, and but they are very flat. And what I found was I was doing some mixing, and the reason this whole thing came up is I was doing some mixing and had to do it with headphones for a variety of reasons, and found that I hear things on headphones that I don't hear on speakers. And certainly the other way around. I hear a lot of things on speakers that I don't hear on headphones. So here's my opinion, my bottom line here. My bottom line is I think you need to do both. I think if you're mixing, you need to mix on your speakers or whatever is your favorite way of getting as much as you can to be as honest as you can about the sound you're getting. And then do it again with headphones or vice versa. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a viable option? And if so, is it worth spending lots of money on a high-end set of headphones?
I've never really used anything higher end than a Bear Dynamics probably in my lifetime, and I've had a pair for 15 years, so I like them a lot.
They're
But
great.
I don't like mixing on them. Things feel a little too narrow to me. I don't know why. Maybe
Narrow. What do you define narrow?
just the stereo image or field. It just feels like it's here where I'm mixing on my monitors. It feels like.
Well, can't you
out
fix
further.
that with? Well, you don't want to change the mix just because you're
Yeah,
headphones.
that's my point. Is I think when I mix on headphones, I think I feel like I need to open up wider. But when I listen to monitors, it's already the mix is wide enough. So I don't want to mess that up by overcompensating. But you're right. If you go back and forth and you know your headphones and you know your studio monitors, there's something in the middle. You could meet, you know, if you use enough reference material, you should be able to compensate or whatever, meet in the middle. Just not overcompensate one way or the other. If that makes any sense.
Well, not only does that make sense, but you said something I think that's incredibly important. And I don't know how you get there from here. Meaning, well, what you said, I think, which is really important, is knowing your devices, really understanding not just your speakers, although by far those are the most important things, but also your mixing and the audio tracks you use and blah, 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 blah. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you don't know, if you have a set of speakers, and let's say, they're not expensive, let's say they're $200 or something like that, you have to know the limitations of those. And in fact, by the way, there isn't a speaker that it doesn't have a limitation. I'm sure there's some if you spend, $50,000 on them or something like that. But for all normal humans, there's going to be something that's not right about every speaker. I mean, it'll too much bottom end, too much high end. You can EQ all that out. You can make compensation. You can also use plugins, which we can talk a little bit about, that actually compensate for your room and your speaker and your headphone. There's several of them that we've been talking about lately. That will help you flatten the response. But there's another aspect of this, and that is your hearing. I mean, how well you hear actual notes, and how sensitive your ears are to low end, high end, how young you are, as it turns out, how many times you've listened to rock and roll guitar players play too loud, yourself included. So, meaning myself included. So all those things are a factor. And I think that what you said is really important. If you can know what your limitations and what the limitations of the speakers are, you're going to get a much flatter mix. The goal here is to mix flat. And then allow the user, assuming there's enough material, there's bass and guitar and drums, you can hear everything, but that you're letting the listener decide what is or isn't what they want to hear. And the other idea of having a really flat mix is to be able to hear not just individual instruments at the volumes you think they should be at, but also their placement in the stereo spectrum, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think what you said is really important. I think it's incredibly important. The question is, how do you get to that point, And I've been doing a lot. Go on.
I know a friend of mine personally, all he does is use headphones. I don't even think he owns studio monitors. So, and he went through this with a ton of different headphones and found he ended up liking DJ headphones because they were a little extra bassier.
Yeah, which isn't good.
No, but he knew what he was doing.
Oh.
He knew his style of music that he was making. He was making his own music and mixing it too. But he knew that he would undercompensate for the extra added bass.
So he compensated.
He compensated one way or the other just to make sure. And then there's people I know. The professional mixer that had won Grammys was a teacher of our friend Steve when he went to Full Sail in Florida. he just mixed on a boombox. He said, "I don't need studio monitors because if I make it sound good here, it's going to sound good in anybody's home stereo system."
Well, wasn't that the theory behind using HS10s or what are they? Yamaha NS10s. Yeah, I mean those were in studios and still are in studios. Some people still swear by them.
And
they haven't been made for like.
They're the horriblest speakers ever.
Oh, they're horrible sounding.
If you make it sound good there, it's going to sound good anywhere.
But is that really a real viable statement? Is it true that if it sounds good here, it'll sound everywhere? Here's the thing, or good everywhere.
Not for everything or every device, just for a couple specific devices. But
I mean, again, I just ran into a situation where I mixed and it sounded great, and then I went in my front room and played it over a really nice stereo system, and it sounded like complete crap. And the reason it sounded like complete crap is because but the room is terrible. It's all hardwood floors and hard surfaces, and it brought out all these highs. I thought, what have I done? I mixed like an amateur. Then I listened to it in the car, and it was awesome. I mean, awesome.
Really?
So I couldn't believe it. It was like, this is the same mix. So there you go. And I mixed on my Genelecs and my Adams, and they sounded great in the room. Here's something that's interesting. I'm doing another song right now, and it's terrible. and it's terrible for many reasons. It's terrible because rhythmically it's not good, and also because of a variety of instruments that have to be replaced, blah, blah, blah. But another reason it's not great is because it's not mixed yet. And I can hear it. I can just hear it. It's so not as good as the other songs that I've now completed for this album that it's really quite amazing how kind of brings to front why people mix. Spend all the time trying to get the right sound when they're mixing for something because it just doesn't sound great. So you have to kind of make allowances for all that stuff. Anyway, mixing is an art form, just like mastering is, and just like everything else is. But I think that there's some tried and true rules. One of which is try to get the flattest sound you can, and the second rule is what you said, and that's try to ensure that you understand the limitations and variables of your mixing environment and speakers and headphones. Mm-hmm. So to that, are more expensive headphones worth it? And I've done a lot of research on this the last few weeks because I'm insane. And I don't know about a $2,000 set of headphones. I think it's one of those things where it's a matter of diminishing returns. You know, you get this much more for that much more money. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, even if you had the money, which I don't, but if you did, I'm not sure I'd spend $2,000 on a set of headphones. But I could see spending $400 or $500 on a set of headphones. I know that's very high, but I could see doing that because I listened when I was mixing to 3 different sets of headphones, and there is a very big difference between these things. And I don't have an open back mixing style set of headphones. Now I'm told. Pardon?
I thought you had some K240s.
Yeah, but those are really, they're not great for mixing. Actually, the best ones that are the DT770s. But actually, you know what everyone says of what I own? What I'm told, though, is that closed back headphones styles and are good for tracking, but not necessarily great for mixing. That's a general rule. There is no rule, but that's something that I've heard. Is that something you've heard?
Yeah, it's common. The closed back headphones you get, for some reason, you get less bass response. Even though the DT770s go down to about 15 hertz, I prefer the K245s that I have because they are about the same range of frequencies, but I hear bass better in these. But there's a lot more bleed through, so that's totally the opposite of what you want for tracking.
Now, my Audio Technicas, am I right? Did I say that right?
HM50S.
Yeah. Now, those, I happen to use some. I did an interesting job 2 days ago. I went to somebody's house who had video that was completed, but she wanted to do voiceovers for it. So I brought basically a portable recording studio. I brought my MacBook Pro. I brought my second monitor. I brought my really nice mic that I used, which is my Townsend over there, by there. Mm-hmm. Over by there. Look at I'm pointing the wrong way.
Did you bring the globe? Did you bring the globe with you?
I did not. No, I did not. But I did get one of those, a clamp mount. I don't have it here, but a clamp mount with a quick release, and I put it on the side of her desk, the side of a table in the kitchen. But it was a small kitchen. It was pretty quiet. We shut the air conditioner. We turned the air on really high, got the place freezing, and then shut it off, so there was no noise. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, it sounded. There was a mix and match of my stuff and what was already previously recorded, and there was no comparison. And I have to admit, I did use my Universal Audio audio card, audio box, and it sounded great. To be honest with you, I was very impressed. But that thing's incredible. I mean, you can do all sorts of crazy things with that thing. And I used the plug-in, and it sounded fabulous. In fact, in some ways, you need 2 plugs for this. You need a left and right channel because there's a front and back to the mic.
Okay.
And so
So
it's this
dual
weird
diaphragm.
double. Pardon?
Dual diaphragm, yeah.
Yeah, right. And the reason for that is because Townsend decided, brilliantly, I think, is that there's ambience around the back that you miss if you don't have a second pickup. So they do, and you can mix that in, and then you can also turn it sideways like this, so you have left and right, and actually have it be a stereo mic. And you can there's two different plugins. One is the main plugin, and the other one's the same thing called 180, and 180 means that there's two individual mics. So it's really an amazing mic. But anyway, plus all the plug-in devices you can use, which is amazing. All the microphones in history, it's amazing. But anyway, so it sounded really great, and there was a big difference between the two. And I used those headphones, and they sounded great to me. I could hear everything. Although, in all fairness, it was a voiceover. It wasn't music. So maybe it's a bad example, But so the question to me is it worth the money to get a higher end set of open back headphones to mix for it? Or should you not bother, frankly, and I mean, I have great speakers, and just mix the way I've been mixing and stop, having gear lust?
That'll never happen.
Well, I'm bringing it up not so much for me, to be honest with you. I'm bringing it up more because when you think about it, there's a lot of people that have no choice but to mix the headphones. They don't have a great set of speakers. They don't even have the room to do it in.
Yeah, I think my friend did it out of necessity because he didn't have studio monitors, and he just got used to it and realized after a while he liked it better.
Yeah.
Because he got used to it, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it for that topic. Okay, I have another topic.
Okay.
I'm running into an interesting issue. This is unusual, but I've been doing 5 different types of video shoots, and I don't have 5 sets of gear. I have one set of gear. And what I found is there's a whole art form if you're doing 2 to 3 different shoots to packing for each job. And there's a lot more to just, I mean, if you're anal like I am, here's your first problem. When you're going to do a shoot, do you have the one cable that you missed? Uh-oh. The battery that you forgot. Oh, the wrong mic. Uh-oh. There's huge ramifications. You could look like a complete and utter dunce. And if you have 2 or 3 different things in a week, and none of them are the same, but you're using maybe 1 or 4 different parts that you're always using, but all the rest is completely different, the way it's mounted, the little pieces in the bottom, all these things are insane. They're making me freaking crazy. Like I did this thing I just described to you, which is purely audio. I had to bring a nonlinear editor system with me because I also did editing and did it on the fly. Then I did this conference that I had to do, and it required a camera, 2 cameras, a video switch, headphones, and then I did another thing that required green screen, lighting, backdrop lighting. They're all very different things, And every time you switch the camera, and a teleprompter. So now the mounts are different. The way you put it's an erector set. Every single time you do this, it's a freaking erector set. How do you get around this? How? I spend a day packing and unpacking.
Yeah, you could bring everything you own. Just make like 3 large suitcases and bring everything you own. That way you'll always have everything. But that's impossible sometimes.
That's actually not a silly recommendation, actually. But there's some mechanics to that cause issues. Let's say you did that. Let's say you had everything in your car. First of all, there's the idea of someone breaking and stealing stuff that you didn't bring in. Sure. Second thing is, do you bring everything into every shoot? No, because you'd carry 5 bags of stuff every time. Yeah. Third of all, if you run into something that you forget, now you got to go back down to the car, take this out, move this around, do the different mount. This is what I do that I know proves that you're not going to screw up. Okay. Two things. One, I completely stage the entire shoot before I leave. Stage it every time, which means I can't do the function without everything set up and working. Then I take only that stuff and I pack it, and I know that's what I needed, so I'm not gonna screw up. Then part two is I bring spares, like this cable, this mic, stuff that I know I can bring that's gonna be a spare. You can't bring spare cameras and stuff because nobody's got, well, I don't have that kind of inventory. But so that's great, except it means, frankly, it means when you come back, you spend 2 hours unloading all your, ingesting all your video, right? And that means emptying SSDs, reformatting, getting them all ready, putting them back in the box, and then changing every single thing, restaging everything, and then repacking. That's 4 hours, 6 hours. And then you got to do it in between each one. That's like an extra day. You're not getting paid for that.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
It's a pain.
But it's the only safe way to not forget anything.
Yeah. So lately, I've been doing kind of a hybrid of what you just said and what I said. Is I stage it. Well, fortunately, I've been doing the same shoots now a couple times in a row, and I put together multiple kits, but I'm moving the pieces that I know have to be moved and leaving the specific mounts in place, including the physical parts that go onto the cameras themselves. Okay. In the box that I know I have to go to, and all I got to do is move it. And even if I screw up and bring an extra piece, I can just unscrew it and put it on, right? The second thing I've been doing is these things. And this is a good and a bad thing. Let me take this one off. Oh. So these are quick releases, and they're third-party quick releases. So quarter 20, you pop this off. That locks into place. And then there's a lock here, which there, which means that it won't come off. Okay. Yeah. So they're great. Here's the problem. This doesn't seem like a very big piece of material. I mean, it's only half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. But when you have stability and a camera, and then think about it. You got to let's say you have a shoot with a teleprompter. So now the teleprompter's on top of this, and then the camera's on top of the teleprompter, and now the whole thing's going like. Ugh. So the stability not good. Also, these are all quarter 20s. I'm sure they make these with the bigger screw size. Which I don't remember the size of, but which might make it a little more stable. But these get awkward when you start building them up. And I'm putting these on everything. I wish I could show you that. But so they're great because if you use these, you can take this piece off and put one of these on every device. Which means, put one of these on every device, and then this on the camera, and then boom, boom, boom. And it doesn't matter because you always have a connection point that not only is fast, but it's going to work. Yeah. So I got a bunch of these, and I've been using them. And there's other things like this. I feel like I'm show and tell. It's like Marty show and tell here. Which is a locking quarter 20.
Mounted on your bike?
No, this is, believe it or not, it's a quarter 20. This is for a microphone.
Oh, okay. I thought it was to
so if you have a boom mic,
your bike handles, your handlebars.
No, I have something else for that. But this would actually, that actually might work.
Sorry.
But anyway, so and this also has a locking piece that falls off.
But that goes on like a hot shoe, maybe?
Yes. Or no, it doesn't. This goes on a quarter 20.
Oh, quarter 20.
Yeah. So, and then this is for. This is kind of cool. Remember when we went crazy trying to buy straps and stuff that fit cameras when we were doing still? This is a. Let me see if I can get it takes a lot to open this, and I don't Plus, there's a button here. I don't know what it does. But anyway, this snaps around a piece of material, like a strap or something, locks in place so it doesn't move, and they have the same kind of connector. It pops off. So you can bring a still camera. Like I'm going to shoot a couple still images, and I was thinking about using this. And then these kind of things, where there's all sorts of...
Those are cool.
Yeah. So I got like a case of all this crap that, I mean, it's through the years, I mean, it cost me a bunch of money. I'm glad I own it all now because I can't afford them now, but I have a lot of stuff. And then this is the magic thing of all.
No.
This is, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a million trillion connector types. Oh, jeez. There. So there's like quarter 20s to the bigger
I see adapters, yeah.
adapters. But now, put this on top of the tripod, this on top of that, and now you got like something that is so unstable that it became a problem. So it's a great idea. It doesn't always work, is I guess my bottom line here. Let me get rid of all these. That was my show and tell for the day. Thank you very much. I do have one more thing to show you. Okay, ready? Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a tripod that I'm using. It's a Manfrotto. It has a normal head. But what this pops out, and what it does is that is for my, see the same kind of connectors. This has this is for my switch, and that is for my phone, and this is for my monitor, and they're basically in place, and I just have it all on one tripod. So setting up, very fast, really quick. And I can add, these are all quarter 20s and the bigger ones, so you can make this be anything you want it to be and add anything you want. So it's all cool, but, and it has worked. I'm scared that I'm going to do a shoot and forget a piece, even though I'm as good as I can with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to take
that. It looks like every arm you own connected to it already.
No, I have 100 arms.
Yeah.
I've got a million of these things. Show and tell's over. I'm exhausted again. Here's another last thing about this, and that is that I'm doing a shoot in front of a green screen, and I was going to take all the stuff to somebody's place, and they offered to come here. And this is one of the great things about, I mean, it's not a big studio, but it's pretty great. It's 300 square feet. That just seems very small, but it's pretty great. Most people don't.
For the stuff you're doing, that's a usable space.
Yeah. I'm going to have the guy come here and have everything pre-set up, so I don't have to actually go through the trouble. And this would be the ideal thing, is if you were successful and lucky enough, which I'm not, but if you were, to have duplicates of almost everything, or even triplicates. Most of the hardware, like tripods and stuff like that, I do. I don't with the case of lighting, but I've got enough. I certainly don't have enough cameras. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I don't. I'm fortunate enough to have some old cameras that I use for the podcast, and I just leave them here almost all the time, unless I had a huge multicam shoot. I just wouldn't need them. So, of course, the best of all worlds is, make a bunch of money and buy two triplicates of all your cameras, which, of course, who does that, right? I'm sure very successful videographers and
people
shooters
that
do.
Are big time guys that make a lot of money,
Yeah, because then you can have bags pre-packed. So I think my hybrid of this is to have bags pre-packed minus the camera or minus the things I don't have duplicates and triplicates of. I certainly have duplicates of microphones and stuff like that, and I can leave them all pre-packed for the kinds of shoot I have, and I have enough bags to do all that. And do as quick a setup as possible. My experience is that after shooting for 25 years is that there's nothing more weird and uncomfortable and makes you sweat is when you're setting up and nothing's working.
That's the scariest thing.
It's so scary because these people are going to pay you money to try to expect something, and you got to look like you're a pro. And my advice is set up staging for every shoot you're going to do. Make sure it's all down to the little pieces I just showed you, all the way to the camera, all the way to the microphones, all the way to the switch if you're going to use one in audio, everything, every single thing that you know you need to have work. And then whatever you can't duplicate, leave holes in your bag for them. Even if you I know it sounds goofy, but if you leave a note saying headphones, microphone, Sony camera, if you put that in there and you say, okay, this is that shoot, I got to go to that bag because that bag does that kind of shoot. I know it works because it's staging. By the way, cabling, triplicate your cabling because that's not that expensive. Do that. Yeah. And then have the cables in there with backups in every bag. And if you do that, what that allows you to do is when you go to that bag, you say, oh, wait a minute, I need my camera, and I need this kind of mount, and I need this microphone. And then you just move that. And I think that stops you from having to stage everything, except for one last thing, and that is what if something breaks? Yeah. And it can. But most of the time, I found cameras to be incredibly stable. I suppose cameras can go bad, but I've never had a camera fail yet, ever. In all the years I've been using cameras, I've never had one fail.
You use pretty good cameras and reputable, brands.
Yeah, I'm sure they fail. I guarantee they do. But and it scares me if I go on even when I go on a single camera shoot, I always bring a second camera in case something goes wrong. When I do a multicam shoot, I don't have that kind of horsepower. I don't have like 500 cameras to use, so it's a little scary, but.
It's a necessity, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's really advice that I'm giving out that may or may not be worthwhile. But if you can do that, it will stop you from having to stage all the time, and it will stop you from having to, you don't have to buy duplicate and triplicate cameras, but you can buy cables and maybe bags and have them pre-done. Because, there's only so many types of shoots you're going to do. Unless you're lucky and are traveling all over and stuff. But even then, you're usually if you're doing single shots where you're just using one camera, a lot of this doesn't even matter. Because you're basically shooting it like you're shooting a movie. You take the scene, you do that scene. It doesn't matter if it's for YouTube or not. It doesn't matter if it's just an advertisement. But you take scene by scene by scene by scene, and then everything's done in post. You don't need 1,000 things. You need exactly what you need to do this. But to do what I'm doing, when you're doing switching and have multiple cameras simultaneously and it's live, or you're streaming, which would be the same thing, somehow, some way, you got to figure out how to pack all the stuff and not miss pieces.
Yeah.
So, Will, do you have anything to say? Because I'm exhausted.
I just. I came across a couple new items of gear.
Oh, good. Talk cool. To me. Uh-oh.
Just when you thought you didn't need a new eye lock, Pace just released the new 3rd generation eye lock.
Yeah, I heard about that, but who cares?
It's USB-C. Well, there's still.
USB-C.
Yeah, so it's USB-C. Yeah, futuristic looking. The year 2021. I thought we were done with the iLock, but I guess not. I'm not to poo-poo on the iLock, but it's just like most of the companies that used it, that I've used their software, either don't use their software anymore, or like Waves figured out how to authorize just the disk, which is way easier. I understand the need for it, but I think there's, to prevent piracy of software. I get it, but
yeah, but it's also a way of moving. Is setting everything to one iLock and using your iLock and moving it.
That's true. If you're using multiple computers, that would make more sense. But luckily, the only software I use that has iLock is the isotope stuff. But you can authorize the drive, and I don't. I mean, I do have multiple computers, but I'm using mainly the Mac for the music now. So
Yeah.
the other thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I have a lot of stuff on my iLock, but the truth of the matter is I have Waves on a Waves drive.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got two of the things. I remember you used to have like 20 dongles.
Yeah,
I'm down
they
to
weren't
two.
big enough.
Yeah.
They weren't big enough, and now they're big enough, and now they're faster. But
Well, it's not
yeah,
just that. The dongles were specialized for each company. I mean,
yeah.
Steinberg had their own, and I mean, it's ridiculous. So I have it down to an iLock and a Waves thing. And the Waves thing is a standard USB drive. But in both cases, you can, Waves now allows you to do it to a drive and as a second device. So I set my laptop up with no dongle. And the one thing I don't have on my, I'm trying to think. I have Native Instruments, Waves, Isotope, which is, and Arturia. And I have it all on my laptop to the hard drive. And then I have them all again to my iLock here. And so the laptop, the portable system, is where everything, because I don't want dongles when I'm traveling. It's ridiculous.
And there's the lack of ports on the laptops nowadays too, make it even harder. So I thought that was fun. We always made fun of the iLock, but
yeah, here we are.
second thing is the MPC has the One, which is their newest MPC. I really don't use physical drum machines, even though I do mostly electronic and hip hop music. But I've always wanted to have something like this or a machine on hand. But this is cool because they released the Retro. It's the one MPC One Retro, and what they did was most of them are all futuristic looking with the touchscreen and the light up pads. This one they painted it. It looked like some of the original MPCs from the 80s and 90s with the like cream color and the grayish overlay and the gray pads. This still does. It's really the same thing as the regular MPC one, but I just thought it was cool that they painted it to look retro, like the original stuff.
You know what I like from Akai?
What the
Force.
push?
Force.
That's what they call it now. The new one. No.
No, the Force is a. You know what the Force is to me? The Force is a Ableton Live without Ableton Live in a computer.
Oh, that's right.
And I could see someone using this if you like the Ableton Live way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I have actually considered this many times. It's $1,000. It's not cheap, but it's a very different approach than the MPC style. And I don't like MPCs. I think the MPC X is gorgeous, and I would love to have one just because I think it's so beautiful, and I think it's such a great design. I think it really is cool, but I wouldn't have one. Many times I've thought about it, but I just wouldn't have one. This I could see this. I don't love the idea of laptops live. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I don't trust them. You know what's weird and backwards about this? And I mean, this is very strange, but you know what I trust? That's what I trust. iPads. And do you know why? Because I'm misled into the idea that because it's just a sheet of glass and there's not a power supply, it's outside of the box and there's one cable and that you don't need it really except for maybe a dongle or something like that, that you can do an awful lot with it and be more trusting of its stability. But the truth of the matter is you could drop it on the floor and that'd be the end of that. So I'm not sure I think that's false too. I mean, I'm not sure that's a realistic point of view. What do you think?
I would trust a computer more than I don't know.
An iPad?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't know how I
Why?
feel about that. I, s- I don't know. iPads crash, apps crash in the middle
Yeah,
of
but
them.
that happens on Macs too and PCs.
I've run Logic 1,000 times in the last 6 months, and I don't think I've crashed it
I don't think
once.
I've had an iPad app crash. Not that kind of stuff.
I,
No, music stuff, I mean.
I'm using an older iPad, so I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if I trust.
here's the look at the back of the Force. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
See, it's very much to me very Ableton-like.
yeah. There's a screenshot that shows one of the views of that's the linear version, but there's a view or a screenshot of it that looks just like Ableton software.
Yeah,
It's like you said,
yeah. So if I think this is a really cool idea. This box.
and it's standalone. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. Okay. Any
And
other
then the
toys?
last thing, which is we were just talking about this. I think it's right up your alley. Rode unveils the thread adapter, and it's a
What?
little carabiner. It's the thread adapter. So it's a bunch of little adapters that go from camera to light mount to microphone mount, and they all screw together on each other, and they sit on a little carabiner, so you can clip it to your backpack and always have not all the adapters you need, but so I thought that was pretty
What?
cool. You were just talking about forgetting like
Oh, this
some of
this thing.
yeah, the little keychain. So you can unscrew each one and adapt anything from camera to microphone stand to
Yeah.
European microphone stand, and then it just clips on your bag. So you get a couple of those, and now you don't have to carry that big bag of adapters. You just have them all screwed tight, and there you go. If you need to go up or
Ooh.
down, and yeah. So
Ooh.
I thought this might entice you
Yeah,
to
that's a
at least
problem.
keep them organized. I don't know how much this thing is right. $25. $25. So it's
Um,
not, your collection is probably spanning over a few years of just collecting the adapters, and it's fine, it works. But I just thought this was a nice, convenient way to.
no, they don't have it yet, but I'm sure somebody like
Yeah, they just unveiled it, so I don't know if it hit the streets yet. There's no date.
yeah, nobody's got it yet, really.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. No, they call it the THAC thread adapter.
The what?
TAC. Rode TAC thread adapter.
Yeah, thread adapter kit TAC. TAK or TAC?
Yeah. That's it, right?
Only B&H and DVE store have it, apparently, according to
Yeah, and
Road's
so does,
website.
yeah.
But I thought it was a cool little keychain thing. Just
It
to
is really
make sure
cool.
You forget those little adapters.
So
And that's all I have.
that's good though. So I'm. Did you get my note about that I had to go back? So let me start at the beginning. I shot this video, and there was a lot of lights in the room, and the guy's nose, like see the little reflection. You can barely see it on mine, but because it's pretty diffused here. I have it set up pretty diffused. But we were in a very small room, and the lights were more on him to get him lit properly, and so his nose was a little shiny. So have you looked into how easy or hard it is to powder a nose?
No.
Digitally? It's not that
Never.
easy.
Oh, you thought you could fix in post.
Well, I've got some wackadoodle plugins that does. I have one plugin called Makeup, and you can actually literally draw things on people's eyes. But here's the thing: it's a moving target, right? Because it's video, so you have to track it. You have to use tracking software. So this stuff will actually first it will identify the face, and then it will track it. But man, it takes a long time, especially if you have like a 10 or 20 minute thing. It takes forever. I got tired of waiting. I moved on. But anyway, it tracks it, and then you can say, it then identifies the eyes and the nose and all this stuff. And then you can actually add makeup and stuff. So guess what I ended up having to do? Get another. It was driving me nuts. So I ended up looking at, yes, our favorite plugin software. Yes, the video
Throwback
effects
Thursday.
company. Yeah, and here's what they had. And here's the problem. This is why I hate them. They had a plugin that does very similar stuff, right? What are they called again? Who are they? We should give them a plug.
Pixel film.
Pixel Film. Thank you. So let me go back and show you this. So I started looking at tracking stuff and stuff that did what I wanted, and ultimately I ended up getting this because it had all these other things in there. And one of them was Auto Tracker, Surface Tracker, which is cool, and this, Face Tracker. And it's really pretty cool, except this is the thing that took forever. It was taking so long, and it works. It's great, but you can do makeup, and you can change the skin colors. I mean, it's amazing. And so look at all these different things. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 things that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, cheap, so.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I hate them. But I ultimately ended up not even doing that. I ended up frankly, kind of fixing the highlights and calling it a day. Because the tracking took so long to do.
Why not just bring a little powder or some like?
Well, he had makeup on.
Oh, he did.
His wife said, "You're gonna need makeup." So he came there with makeup. I didn't notice it at first, although I did kind of say his face was a little. I was like, Wonder why this guy looks different than the last time I saw him. But anyway, so that was kind of funny. But he did have makeup, and that helped a lot. The other thing is to relight it and light it in a way that there's no reflections. But that's really hard in a small room. Really hard. And I had 5 lights. 5, count them 5. Because I needed 2 for green screen, and I needed 3 to light them. And there was only so much room in the little office that he had. It was tight. So it worked out. It was okay. So that was my crazy week.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I have this guy coming to, I don't want to say what it's about, but it's very much out of my world. I mean, way out of my world, what he's going to be discussing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at the wise thought of not insulting a bunch of people, I'm not going to bring what the subject is up. But he wants to teach a class, and we're going to shoot him in front of a green screen and do a lot of editing afterward and put things up behind him to very similar to the one I just told you about with the powdery nose, except very different subject matter. So it's very strange. I did an audio voiceover / video editing job, and then I did a shoot. It's like a very, very, and that led me to think about why the topic for today was what the topic was today, because
that makes sense.
Because all these different things require different gear and different bags and different packing and different little pieces of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because when we used to do the film stuff, it was always the same, except for maybe the microphones. How many people didn't need to be mic'd up? Everything
absolutely
else was kind of the same.
Yeah,
So
when you and I were doing interviewing, research stuff. Yeah, research is consistent. It was consistent. But I don't know if you know this or not, but I still staged everything before every shoot.
Yeah.
I just didn't believe that something was not going to break, and that I needed to remember that, or something wasn't going to make the connection right.
Mm-hmm. Which is
So I still staged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But it's a pain. So if someone has a better way of doing things, let me know. There's got to be a better way than I'm doing it. But with limited budgets and with limited gear, I think a lot of people. Do you remember telling me many years ago that when you do audio and you set up a recording studio, that 30% of a studio is cables, and you're going to be surprised because you didn't think about the money that it costs to do that.
Yeah.
And then, well, it's the same. It's the same thing with video stuff. You're going to forget all these little pieces, man. Media, connectors, cables, plugs, adapters, the things I just showed you. All those things are extras, and you're not normally prepared for it. That's what I found.
It's true. It's true.
And they cost money.
Yeah. If you're gonna spend $1,000 in the studio, you're probably gonna spend about $300 in cables.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
okay, Will, that's the end of our wonderful podcast for the day, I think. We'll have to figure what we're going to do next. We'll always come up with something. It is an unlimited source of information. Please let us know if you like what we're doing. And click everything that you're supposed to click on YouTube. click, 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 click. Like, and yeah, click and like. And send us suggestions if you want to hear something that we're not covering yet. So until next time, Will.
All right, Marty.
Bye.